And welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is June 25th, 2025. It is 5 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order.
Moved by Dryfoot, seconded by Drulard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. I see none. The adoption of the draft minutes, June 11th, 2025. Does council wish to comment on that or any errors or omissions? I'm seeing none. Those minutes will be adopted as presented to council in their agenda package. Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. And number 5 is Dillon Consulting. Are they with us or are we just going to deal with it?
Yeah, no one's in the chat there.
Nobody's there?
Did we sent them the login details, right?
Yeah.
I think they did plan on attending.
We'll come back to that then.
Sure.
Let us know when they arrive. Okay, so we're going to go on to item 6, which is correspondence. And item A is Elgin County Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Review and Update. Does council wish to discuss that? It was dealt extensively with Elgin County Council yesterday. It's a work in progress. We've already submitted this, the one that we have now, for 2025, but there will be meetings held with this. And this is one of them things that we're all mandated to do, but thankfully Elgin County took control of this thing and it's well written and we get to participate. Okay, resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich hereby endorses the Elmer Elgin St. Thomas Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan update, and that a copy of the Elmer Elgin St. Thomas Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan and the 2025 update be posted on the municipality's website. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item B, the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury advocacy for increased income support threshold for Canadian veterans. My tongue is tied. Comments from council on that? Go ahead, Councillor Dryfoot.
Just reviewing all the documents that were presented to us, I'm in full agreement of this. I think for $20,000, it's we're way past that. In the last review, I can't remember the exact date. I think it was 2019, if I recall right. But nevertheless, I fully support this.
Okay, no further comments. Resolution, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dryfout, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, calling upon the government of Canada and all federal parties to increase the eligibility threshold for the income replacement benefit IRB program from $20,000 to no less than $40,000 annually for a single person household, and that Veterans Affairs Canada to review all income support programs with the internet to modernize eligibility criteria in line with the current cost of living across Canada, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Dryfout, seconded by Drulard, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, I'll just take a minute to welcome Yvonne and Cam to the meeting. Because your item is a public meeting, we cannot start before 5:30.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Okay. No, you're welcome here anytime. But I just want to let you know we can't deal with it for a bit. Okay. On to the consent agenda. There are a number of items listed. I'm not going to go through them all one by one, but does council have anything they wish to speak to on those items on the consent agenda? Councillor Dryfout.
I'll just speak to the economic development summer newsletter. It was reported in there that they've done a complete review of the Elgin Incentive Program, which is basically funding or supporting business improvements and several incentives to improve business around the county. So I read I had the privilege of reading it while they were revising it and redoing the whole concept. And it looks to me that they did hire a consultant to do it, and it was well, in my opinion, it was well done. And there's a lot of other incentives that are coming into that the incentive program itself that sort of foster building development for individuals that need extra help. So I think a lot of counties around us have done it, and Elgin County was the only one that hasn't taken that initiative. So I think it's headed in the right direction. And I just wanted to report to council that we will have to align our CIP with our community CIP with the county in order for us to receive funding. And I think one of the criteria in the report itself was that if a municipality does not have a community improvement plan in general for the municipality, they will not be there will be no funds available for any recipient within the municipality. So I think we will have to make note of that going forward. And I'm sure our Economic Development Committee will keep you abreast of that. But I think it's going in the right direction. I'm happy with the way it looks, and I'm not sure, Mayor Hens, if you had the opportunity to review it, but I think it's going the right direction. So
I did. Sorry, there is some funding that. Anything further on the consent agenda? And anything further on the Elgin primary water? It looks like it's just public meetings coming up. It's a good thing we have Watson and Associates to try and make sense out of these bills coming through. It's quite complicated. Okay. No further comments? Resolution, please. On the consent correspondence.
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Pemberton, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item 8. CAO's report. Is there anything to report?
Nothing at this time.
Not at this time, okay. Do we have any unfinished business? Nothing? Under new business, and Deputy Mayor Loveland, you have a report on the Bo Horvat Community Center.
Yes, it won't take very long, just a quick report. The municipality of West Elgin wasn't successful in obtaining the funds similar to our application. We were very hopeful. We kind of checked all the boxes, but we didn't get approval. So we have to go back and kind of figure out where we're going now with that arena upgrade. We did go ahead and award the tender for the dehumidifiers. They come in considerably less than we had hoped for, which is good. Not what we hope for, what you planned, I guess, which is good. We're going to strike a committee and take another look at where we're going. So there'll be no funds required this year for the arena. And the one advantage of Craft Hockeyville is there's no time frame on when we have to do anything there. So we need to figure out, well, what we're going to spend and when, and we'll be working on that later on. So.
Okay, so that grant application was to add to Craft Hockeyville to get something done?
Yeah, we applied for $1.4 million, I think, in grant, and so it'd be 50% of that. With that and the money that we had promised from the two municipalities in Craft Hockeyville, we had sufficient money. But now we'll have to maybe downsize our expenditure or apply for some additional funding, do some fundraising. So that's something we're working on. So.
Okay. Any question of council on that one? Okay. Resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report from the deputy mayor titled Bo Horvat, West Elgin Community Center Board Improvement Update dated June 25th, 2025 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, I see that now, yeah. Okay, thank you. So we're going to circle back to item 5, which is Dillon Consulting, the Dutton Wastewater Treatment Plant Capacity Assessment Report. And I see Bander is with us. There he is.
Good afternoon, Mayor and everybody.
Okay, can you turn that up a little?
Can you guys hear me?
Not very well. We're turning it up here, Bander. We'll,
All right.
yep, okay. You're on with your report.
All right, awesome. Everybody's seen the report. I didn't have any slides for this one, so I can share my screen and look at the report if you guys want, or we can just talk about it generally.
What's council's thought? Everybody did see your report, Bander.
Okay. Well,
So I think we can talk about it.
okay, in general, okay. Well, just to do like to backtrack on this one, and for what we did to achieve this report, we went to the wastewater treatment plant. We got all the information, drawings, water quality data from the operator. Then we took all the operation and maintenance manuals as well. We still have them in here, and we were able to figure out what is the rated capacity for each piece of equipment for the plant from the beginning, which is at the headworks, all the way to the discharge. So we're able to figure out what's our baseline, what each piece of equipment can do and cannot do, and where is our bottleneck in the system. So if everybody's got, I don't have it with me, but on page 19 of 22, we've got that little chart in there that shows you what 100%, that red line, that's what the rated capacity is, and what the actual equipment can do, whether it's on the line, below the line, or above the line. So in generally everything is at the line or higher than the line, except for the clarifier. So the clarifiers, when running one clarifier, that tells you the system is not at capacity. We're not even achieving the capacity that we need with the clarifier. So for us to be able to get additional flows at the plant, we need to do something about that clarifier issue. And since we have a second clarifier at the plant, it's not working, the mechanism doesn't work. The simplest and the lowest cost solution was to retrofit that existing clarifier, put it back into service. For us, and then I jumped to the conclusion right away, but for us to get to this point of conclusion, we actually did wastewater modeling. We have a software called Sumo. It's similar to another software called BioWet. It's industry standard. So we put in everything in this model. We ran the plant as is, as if it's current condition, and then we did several scenarios. So in these scenarios, we did different temperature, different flow rates, different water quality achieved for it to be achieved, recirculation with one or two clarifiers, and we were able to figure out the clarifier was the bottleneck in the system. So when we put the second clarifier back in operation, we were able to achieve much higher flow capacity for the whole plant. And that's really the only thing that you need to upgrade in this plant, is to put that mechanism back in. And we had a little bit of fine tuning operations of the pumping. There's something called the RAS and WAS pumps, return activated sludge and waste activated sludge. And the plant, it's part of the operation where you're bringing back flow to the beginning of the plant to replenish the bacteria and just keep running the plant correctly. Those pumps are running at 100% capacity, and their capacity is much, much higher than what the plant needs. So for us to be able to control it, we're adding a little bit of electrical components, like a variable flow, VFDs in the system, so we're able to control it. This way the operator can control what can be sent to it as an inner circulation mode or not. if I'm talking too fast and you guys need to stop me, just stop me and ask questions whenever you need to. But these are the only two upgrades that we need to do, is put a new mechanism, and put VFDs for those, for the motors, for those two pumps. Which means we're not adding any new technology, we're not playing or doing any modifications to the lagoons. We're not constructing new buildings, we're not adding any chemicals, we're just reusing existing infrastructure and modifying it and doing it. And this to us was the least intrusive and the least expensive out of any option that we've looked at. We've actually looked at the IFAS system that Deputy Mayor Loveland when told us to talk to the supplier. The supplier provided, and we have Tariq online, he's our senior wastewater engineer, but the supplier provided a very large system that does not fit in the aeration tanks. I think they're designed to fit in the lagoons themselves. So by the time you put this in the lagoons, you can't really put it in the lagoons, because those lagoons are not treatment lagoons, they're sludge holding lagoons, which means now you definitely have to dewater, desludge, add additional structures to be able to support those equipment in there. And those equipment are close to $3 million on its own just to purchase. Right now, this clarifier, we're estimated it's between $1 and $1.5 million installed for the clarifier with all the upgrades required for it. So this one, once you be able to do that, this is all theoretical and calculated based on the model. It makes sense. It's like I said, it's industry standard. We do this in all the other plants as well. Based on the flows generated or allowed additional flows in here, we can get around 192 to 200 cubic meter of flow in addition to the plant, which is equivalent to around 256, possibly more housing. Okay, if anybody has questions, if I can go back and go through other things.
One question, Deputy Mayor Loveland.
I just start with a comment. It's unfortunate we didn't look at this a little sooner. I think we wouldn't be in quite the same problem we are, and I was not surprised about this report. It mirrors exactly what T. Hammer told us when we did the last plant expansion, that there was more capacity there. I guess my first question I have is, do we have to get MOE approval to bring that tank back into use? It was always the intention that we were going to run with 2 tanks. I don't know what caused that one to be shut down, but is that something we have to get approval for, or can we have the design and everything? Can we just get some price estimates from people in that business to see what that would cost?
I'm not 100% sure if the Ministry of Environment, if we need the Ministry of Environment, we are going to talk to the Ministry of Environment and just as a pre-consultation meeting with them, just to tell them we're not adding anything new, we're just reinstating existing equipment. So they might not require anything from us other than a design drawing and then a tender package ready for them to review. And then for them to re-amend the last ECA, because the last CUV. The CUV only talks about 1 clarifier in operation. So once we put the second one in, they have to amend that CUV to say 2 clarifiers in operation. But they also need to review the re-rating of the plant. So now we are re-rating the plant. So they have to go through that process of re-rating. So they're going to look at this report. They're going to look at the stuff that we're doing, all the calculation that we've done, the sumo model. They're going to see what is the objective and what is the rating of the plant means to them. So we will do that as part of this process. To talk to suppliers, we can talk to suppliers right away. We're just waiting to see if this is the solution that the council is approving to move forward on.
I just wanted to check on the C of A's, because our original C of A did have just 1 tank, but when we put in the fine bubble aeration back 15 or 16 years ago, that C of A did approve the second tank. So I don't know if you saw that one or not.
They approved the second tank because the first one is no longer in service because the mechanism is completely corroded. I think they were using galvanized steel instead of stainless steel. Like they normally, all of the ones now they're doing is all stainless steel 316 is for designed for wastewater. So for us, we were just thinking we're gonna reuse the concrete basin itself. We're gonna remove the cover. We're gonna put a brand new mechanism in there. And hopefully we're gonna check all the piping and the structure as part of it.
Okay, just a quick one, Bander, and it has to do with 6.1, the mechanical screen. And I've been at that plant and watched Archie actually do this. Would this be a time that it's a health and safety issue?
Yeah.
Is this the time to deal with that as well?
You could. The problem is, are we gonna we're gonna upgrade this one for this floor, or do you wanna just wait and upgrade it for the full 1200? For the 1200 is gonna need to be a brand new headworks building with a brand new screen. It's gonna be much bigger. So we're putting the money, and we can put the money in it now and have a better system, but it becomes an obsolete system. If you won't be able to use it once you go higher flows. This is for the size of channel, that's what would happen. That's why we said in here, it's a health and safety issue. It still meets the flows that we want. So we're not gonna push for that one. We'll push for that one for the for the phase one upgrade, the 20-year upgrade one. It just makes sense to do that one. The clarifier, we need to put it for the 20-year upgrade anyway, so we're not losing anything. Once we put it in, it's actually required for the future as well. But this, if you upgrade this headwork, it will not be used. It'll be more of a throwaway system. But it
Okay,
is
thank you for
up to you what you want. We can put one in if that's from health and safety perspective.
Ballpark number on that.
Okay.
Can you even guess?
Not sure. Tariq, I think you've done something similar. I'm not sure what the price is.
Okay.
Tariq, I'm gonna ask Tariq.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, with regards to the existing screening, yeah, we know it's at its capacity as at the rated capacity, and currently the plant is running a little bit higher than the rated capacity, and it's a due time to be replaced. But we are considering here, and it's the short-term or interim solution that we need to try to run the plant till we take it to the to actual upgrade. We want to run it in a way that it would give some better effluent quality, and it can take more capacity without big issues. I mean, within the limits of the objectives and the limits of the effluent. The screen itself, yeah, it's the space between the bars of the screen is bigger, and it allows bigger particle to settle in the excineration tank, and it's unhealthy. But currently it's running, and later on in the upgrade we will do some. I mean, part of the upgrade there will be some cleaning on the tanks and building a new tank and having bigger screen and grid tank as well. So as Banda said earlier, that if we replace the screen, we have to do a complete upgrade for the screen and grid and building. So and it will be it's gonna cost something. The screen itself, the screen's something like between 300 to 500,000. The grid tank is something similar to this, about 400,000, and the building it might take about something like 1.5 million. To take, I mean, to be suitable for the current situation and for the upgrade situation. So it will be eliminated from the next step upgrade. But I mean, we assume this is a big money. I mean, we can include it, but it's up to you. I mean, to decide on this.
I'm tending to agree with you. Let's just do what we have to do to get that plant up to as much capacity as we can squeeze out of it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anything further, Bander, or one more question from Deputy Mayor Loveland?
Right.
Thanks for answering the questions that I sent in before, so we won't go through those. But I know you thought it was going to be at least 3 months to get the final design done, and then we've got to go to MOE for approval. And that could take quite a while unless we get our MP very involved. I know in my past life, we had a new plant approved in 4 weeks, but that was pretty exceptional. And our MPP was the Ministry of Environment at the time. So I guess that doesn't, we could still put some pressure to get this going a little quicker than you indicated would be normal.
Right, 100%. We're gonna do the pre-consultation meeting now, as soon as we start. We don't need to wait for a design. We just need to talk to them and see what's actually required. And then we'll move forward. Like, as long as we start with them, the account, I guess, or the issue will start with MECP. So then we'll just keep forward and we'll keep making meetings with them. Like right now, I think we have certain people on MECP that we can talk to now because of other upgrades and other things that we're doing there. So I'm sure they'll respond a little bit faster for the situation. And I don't think it'll take 3 months for this. I think it's more like, I think it's just we're waiting. We have to do a pre-selection. The pre-selection is going to take about a month. By the time we get the pre-selection, get stuff started, that's the time it might take between 2 to 3 months up to finish up the design. We can fast track it as well if needs to be.
And I can speak to MPP Rob Flack. He's fully aware of our situation. And Don, we met not so long ago, and he understands the urgency. And as soon as this application is in, he has asked for a copy of it. So I'm confident he will do whatever in his power. And we will meet with him again to press the issue. Okay, anything further, Bander, or did Jason want to wade in here? Oh, Councillor Dreyfus.
Just a quick question here. I guess we're dealing with the plant in general, but we have also had the forest main and pump station #1 on the go with design. So where does that sit in this in the total complexity of the project? Is it going to be a part? Is it planning to be a part of this whole project, or can we do the plant upgrade and then plan down the road? What's your thoughts on that?
I'll let you answer that one, Jason.
Sure. I was actually going to ask if you wanted me to mention about the funding application as well, Mayor. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So there's a new funding stream out available right now that's called the sorry, it's the what's it called? The Health and Safety Water Stream. It's very similar to the previous funding application that we sent, but does seem to be more geared towards a project like this and certainly to smaller municipalities. It's also 73-cent dollars, which is nice. And so that application is actually due tomorrow by 5 o'clock. So we've kind of got a meeting with Dawn and staff in the morning to just kind of review that and get it submitted kind of under the deadline. And our intention is to include both engineering and capital costs for the upgrades to the pump station one and the force main, and then the engineering and upgrades capital costs that Bander just went through. So I believe the application itself automatically adds something like 25 or 30% contingency, but I believe the total funding request with that contingency would be around $9 million. So certainly substantially less than the approximately 30 that we were asking for in the previous application for kind of the 20-year ultimate repair. So fingers crossed, like I said, it seems to align well with the municipality's needs, and it definitely seems to be more directed at the smaller municipalities. And so, and also, in terms of readiness, because we've done a lot of the pre-design work and because the pump station is 90% complete package, we're also hoping that that's going to gain you guys a lot of points in terms of the evaluation, because you're essentially have done a lot of work and aren't just waiting for funding to start something. So hopefully that bodes well for you. Like I said, we're going to review that with Dawn tomorrow morning and get that submitted. And that's, yeah, I don't know if there's any more Thoughts on that? I guess in terms of the status of the pump station, like it's more or less complete. The 90% package has been submitted to staff for final review, and it's more or less just us finalizing it based on when we're going to go to tender and move forward with the project.
I think the question also was, should we do it now or should we do it later? I think it needs to be done now because you need to be able to take as much flow as possible from the system and pump it to the wastewater treatment plant, whether you pump it to treatment or we've added a diversion to send it directly to the lagoon as well as a worst case scenario. So the operator is able to pump it to the lagoon for a little bit. So I think it's something that needs to be done right now, and it accounts for the 20-year upgrade. So it actually looks at 20 years for everything, so you don't have to do the engineering again for a wet well. The pumps can be replaced in 15, 20 years with something bigger, which is already accounted for in the design as well. So it's already ready to go for the full plant upgrade as well.
Okay. Thank you. And is it true to say we can't do one without the other? Speeding up the plant without the force main and pump repairs, they go hand in hand.
Worst case scenario, you have to replace at least the force main. Like that's the problem is your bottleneck in the whole system is the force main in that pump station number one. If you can't pump out fast enough, you won't be able to send anything. You're gonna have the same problem right now, even if you upgrade the plant.
Okay, thank you.
One more question. So with a result of all this, Bander, there was conversation at one time of cleaning the lagoon. Is that a requirement in this situation? Or is that we got time? Do we have
No.
time for that?
You don't need to touch the lagoon at all. This lagoon is technically designed for wasting from the plant. It's not treatment, so it's normally they send sludge to it. In the upgrade, once you get to the upgrade, you know, the 20-something, $30 million upgrade for the 20-year one, you have to desludge the lagoon, you have to add additional pumping, and it's all part of the full upgrade. That's something for later, but right now you don't need to do anything with it.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Another quick question for Bander. I think we're all understanding this a little better as time goes on here, which is good. So if we don't get the grant, we could go ahead with this, what you've proposed here. Plus, we could put a new force main to pumping station number one if we had to. I don't know what that cost would be, but that's a pretty simple run. There's no services, or it's just a laneway that we have easement over top of. So that wouldn't be too difficult to put a larger force main in if we don't get the grant.
So you just want to put in a brand new force main and do the work up there. So the only thing you wouldn't be doing is put in a pumping station and a backup generator. But then you have to come back later and do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, those pumps are rated right now for the plant capacity. They run, if you run both of them together, you can run slightly more flow. So if you do that upgrade with a force main, possibly replace the pumps, and do the clarifier work and the stuff at the plant, you could possibly you could get the flow that you need. The problem with the pumping station is also a really old pumping station, and it really needs to be upgraded because it doesn't meet any safety requirements at all. Like that's actually worse for safety than the headworks at the wastewater treatment plant. It doesn't have enough ventilation. Everything's corroded. The ladder is corroded. You have a lot of issues with that pumping station, and it's not safe or secured as well. Like it's open, and anybody can just go there, right? So I think the total price, for the pumping station force main, I think we've estimated around $3 million. And then for the clarifier, we're assumed it's around between 1.5 million. So we're looking at less than 5 million all in. So if you don't get funding from the government, from the funding, I think if you're able to secure $5 million, that would cover hopefully everything.
Okay, thank you. Just one more question I have. You put in there in your report an additional 256 homes, if my memory serves me correctly. We're underwater right now. Just to get to 80% what the ministry tells you you're gonna start doing something at.
Yes.
Are you taking all that into account? Like we'll get our head above water, plus we can add that much capacity.
This is with the upgrades, recommended upgrades of the wastewater treatment plant, you'll be able to get up to 750 cubic meters per day, which when you backtrack the calculation from that number, it's a theoretical number calculation minus the actual flows, you can achieve around 192 cubic meters a day, which is equivalent to around 256 houses. Assuming I think we use the 250 liters per capita per day and 3 people per house. So we just did the math based on that. So you might get 200, you might get 300, you would get somewhere in that range. But
Okay,
you have to do the
thank you.
upgrade first.
Thank you for all that work, guys, and for putting the application together. Another question?
Yeah, just gonna get my train of thought together. So no matter what we do with Grant, then if we don't get approved or not, we're gonna keep on going with at least the plant. That's my interpretation. Do we need to do anything here? Pass any resolutions or anything that give you authority to go ahead?
I would say at this time, it's probably premature. They're just going to continue on with the engineering for this. At some point down the road, when we find out if we did receive a grant or not, council would have to make the decision at that time whether to proceed without the grant.
One more quick one. And I guess when do you think we could have a additional capacity so we could approve at least a few more of the houses in the subdivisions that are approved now, and maybe the commercial site that's approved? I think, you know, those people have invested a lot of money and they're all kind of sitting there waiting and turning away sales on lots. So any idea how soon we could start looking at that, realizing that they won't come online for another 6 months anyways?
So one of the points that we're looking at now after the meeting is having an allocation policy. And we would work with Dylan to make sure that we are not going to allow anything until we know the project is going ahead, looking at timeframes and then permitting people to start construction, knowing full well they can't connect until such time as the plant is upgraded. As far as allowing any connections now, I would say that that is not in the municipality's best interest, and the engineers are agreeing with that too.
Go ahead, Jason. Any comments on that?
No, I would completely agree with that. I mean, we would want to work with you for sure, like nothing allowed in the short term. And if there was lots of pressure, and I can imagine there is to get some additional units moving, you know, we certainly could work together. As long as we had a very good idea that we were going to have approvals from MECP and sort of when all this was going to get, you know, go to construction and finish construction, because obviously once you give the green light to the developers, not only to move forward, then, you know, they're going to want to be able to connect once they invest all the money to build something. So we just want to make sure that we would have the approval, and that's going to all line up for those developers, you know, so that they're not spending more money that they can't, you know what I mean? So just requires coordination. But like Bender said, I think that if there's a desire to move forward with the plant works, like we can try to expedite that work as quickly as possible. We have some good contacts with the MECP. So if that's council's desire, we can certainly try to push this along as quickly as possible.
I'm seeing heads nodding. Yes, let's move that one
Okay.
along. Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to make sure I understand this right. So, and maybe this is more a question for Don than Dylan, but so at the 1.7 million, would bring on, you know, your 200 to 300 homes approximately, or how the equivalent of that. You know, I guess I'm curious. Yeah, I understand we should wait for grants and stuff like that, and that's fine. I'm not opposed to that. We're applying for them to be able to do a bit more of a complete update. But I guess I'm curious, is council's desire, whether we get the grant or not, are we moving ahead with this 1.7 and where we kind of sit right now with our reserves and other things to be able to move forward with that 1.7, whether we get a grant or not. So I guess my curiosity is where's council's thought? Because my thought is if we have the ability And maybe we go to some of the developers and some of the open subdivisions and say, hey, this is what it's gonna cost us. If maybe we get some connection fees up front plus what we have in reserves or whatever the situation is whether we get the grant or not, we want to move forward with this, but we may need some assistance with that. Is that something council would consider looking at?
So I think part of this whole process will be reviewing our reserves, the connection policies that we have, to see how we're going to be able to fund this, whether we get a grant or not. One way or the other, I don't think there's any option that these upgrades have to go ahead. So it may not be me, it might be the next CAO, but there will be a fulsome report on how we're going to be able to afford this.
Okay, if there's nothing further, Jason, anything further, Bander?
The only thing I wanted to mention is just something that we can't forget about is there is some work yet to be done to finish off the requirements of your sanitary CLI. So the CLI, that's the new ECA, I suppose, or the old C of A essentially. Similar to water systems, there's now combined, they call it CLI, combined linear infrastructure ECAs, which covers entire collection systems. And so back a few years ago, when this was all implemented with a lot of small rural municipalities were essentially more or less given kind of informal or draft CLI approvals. That was the case for Dutton Dunwich, but there's a number of supporting documents, I guess, that are required to sort of carry that through, I guess, and get formal approval. Those deadlines have passed, and it's just something I wanted to make sure council was aware of because there's some work to do there, but we felt that it probably made sense to do that work. And then once the idea is like once you have your CLI, you basically can have an engineer fill out a one-page form, wait, and then it's basically like instant approval. You could move forward with your kind of reconstruction projects. And I guess my question or consideration for council as well is I'm not aware of a CLI for your storm sewers being started as well, but it's just something to consider. It's completely unrelated to this project, but there's such a thing for storm as well. And that's basically, I see most municipalities kind of going that way. Like I said, it looks like you guys got started on your CLI a few years ago, but there's some deadlines that have passed. And again, I think it's just understaffing and the MECP being underwater, or else they'd be following up on these types of items. So, but that's something that would allow sort of instant approval. If we didn't do that, we would have to go the traditional way for the pump station upgrade and these upgrades and submit an ECA application, which I think is, $1,700, and then it's like 8 months to 12 months for approval, like through MECP. So the whole point of the CLI is basically to eliminate that. So, but that's all I wanted to say, Mike. I think we've probably covered everything else, I believe.
And Jason, we were going to bring a report to council about that because I think the price tag in that was about 120,000 to carry that work out.
Yes, correct.
So yes, we were working on that as part of the overall funding package for this, so we would lump that all together.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good.
Is that something that you would do, Jason, or is it a joint effort with municipal staff and Dylan?
It'll be a joint effort. I mean, I'm just trying to think. So it's things like a detailed operations and maintenance manual. So that would cover, all of the pumping stations in town, force mains. It would talk about, there'd be a chapter probably or a section on each pumping station that would talk about, your alarms and just lots of good information. It would definitely, Archie would have to be involved for sure. It would definitely be a joint effort, but it's something we've helped other municipalities do before, and so it's something that we're comfortable assisting with.
Okay, sounds like we got to get on that one.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, council.
Yep. Thank you, Bander and Dylan and We got Tariq on there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have some direction. Bit of a path forward, so. Okay, let's go on. Oh, do you? Go ahead.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report by Dillon Consulting titled Dutton Wastewater Treatment Plant Assessment Report for information, and that staff be instructed to prepare a wastewater allocation policy for council's consideration, and that planning staff be instructed to prepare a report concerning the use of a holding zone provision for the serviced area of Dutton and for repealing of the interim control bylaw 2025-18. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
So one of the precursors of the ICBL is that the municipality had to prepare a report. The report's now in hand. So in order, that report would have to be repealed, or the bylaw would have to be repealed. So the only way that we can then control development would be through the use of a holding zone. So we would construct the bylaw, the holding zone bylaw, to make sure that non-sewage generating construction would still be able to proceed. So sheds, decks, anything of additions to houses where there's no additional plumbing, we would make sure that those can still go without any holdbacks for residents. So we're thinking it's probably going to be a couple of months by the time everything can be in place, but until such time, the ICBL does remain in place.
Okay, thank you. We're a little late, but we're gonna deal with the planning. And 16 minutes late, so. Mira?
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 02/25 filed by Katrinas Van Brink for property located at 32058 Aaron Line opens at 5:47 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. This is a public meeting as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from agricultural A1 zone to special agricultural A2 zone and rural residential special provision 4, RR-4. The subject property is locally known as 32058 Aaron Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning the proposals? I see none. What method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
A sign was posted on the subject property by the June 5th, 2025 deadline, and notices were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property prior to June 5th, 2025.
Thank you. I will now introduce our planner, Paul, for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. So tonight, before you, the first application that council is considering is for a zoning amendment that was as a result of a severance for a surplus farm dwelling. The severance application number is E8124, and it was approved provisionally by the Land Division Committee in October of 2024. And as part of that provisional consent, there was a condition included that the applicants obtain a zoning bylaw amendment to amend the bylaw and rezone the retained farmland parcel to an agricultural A2 zone to prohibit any future residential development. In preparation for that application as well, it was noted that the proposed severed parcel, which contains the residential dwelling, has a slightly larger lot depth than the maximum permitted under the rural residential zone. So that is the reason for the site-specific provision of the RR special provision zone that's proposed for that severed lot. So this bylaw would rezone the retained farmlands to A2 to prohibit residential development, and then rezone the severed lot to rural residential special provision zone to recognize that slight deficiency, as well as recognize the use of that parcel as a primary residence. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Have you received any comments from staff?
Yes, and they're summarized in the planner's report.
Okay. Did you receive any written submissions on this application?
No written submissions have been received.
Before I open the floor to questions from the public, please be advised that if any person from the public wishes to receive further information on the action of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment, please ensure that they leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. Are there any public present have any questions? Don't see anybody. Do council members have any questions? No. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment should leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If you are not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision, since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. The last day to appeal is July 16, 2025. Okay, Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drewler, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 02/25 32058 Aaron Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, Katrina Van Brink, dated June 25th, 2025 for information, and that council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 02/25 for property located at 32058 Aaron Line from agricultural A1 zone to special agricultural A2 zone and rural residential special provision for RR4. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, this public meeting is now concluded. Motion to adjourn, please.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Pemberton, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 02/25 filed by Katrina Van Brink for property located at 32058 Aaron Line closes at 5:52 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and now we have another public meeting. Tara, please.
This one is moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 03/25 filed by Yvonne Brooks for property located at 28143 Talbot Line opens at 5:52 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. This is a public meeting as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act to afford any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from highway commercial C1 zone to special rural residential, special provision 32 RS-32 zone. The subject property is locally known as 28143 Talbot Line in the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning these proposals? I see none. Tara, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
A sign was posted on the subject property by the June 5th, 2025 deadline, and notices were mailed to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property prior to June 5th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. And now, Paul, if you would give us your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So through you to council, this zoning bylaw amendment was made, or the request was made at the behest of the owner. There is a letter from the owner. I believe the mayor also received a copy. It's attached to the report as well, summarizing the reasons that they're making this request. But to summarize the report, the property is currently zoned highway commercial, but it is a residence with a home occupation. As a result of its being zoned highway commercial, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation has assessed that it is a commercial property, which puts it into a much higher tax rate. And while the current owners are in the process of trying to sell the property, the tax burden of being a commercial property, as well as banks' higher minimum down payment requirements for all commercial properties, has made it difficult for the current owner to find a buyer for the property. So they are requesting that it be rezoned from highway commercial to a special rural residential zone to reflect its actual primary use as a residence. In reviewing the standards for the proposed rural residential zone or special rural residential zone, pardon me, the maximum lot area permitted in that zone is 8,092 square meters. And according to the measurements, the actual measurements of that lot is 9,456 meters squared. So the special provision will allow the lot to have a slightly larger lot area than is what is typically permitted in the RS zone. And it will allow that property to become a residential lot. And then hopefully the owners will be able to get that impact reassessment done and have them recognize it as its primary use as a residence. Happy to answer any questions that council has.
Staff.
Yes, as summarized in the planner's report.
Have you received any written submissions on this application?
Yes, as summarized in the planner's report.
Before I open the floor to questions from the public, please be advised that if any person from the public wishes to receive further information on the action of council regarding the passing of a bylaw on the proposed amendment, please ensure that they leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. Anyone from the public attending other than the owners? Certainly, if you want to speak to this issue, Cam or Yvonne. Oh, please come up. We can hear you a little better.
My first comment is I admire you people for taking on such a shitty project, but however, I suppose it's something you've got to live with, isn't it? Before I ask, I have three questions and I'll get out of your hair, but before I ask, well, I've got council's attention and Mayor Hens is aware of this. Recently, my partner and I authored a book on climate and housing. This book covers all of the areas that the federal government is currently talking about in the Build Canada Homes process. We have submitted a brief to the federal government explaining what our books are covering, and we've received some very strong support because the books will help those understand what the Build Canada Homes process is and what the new project is. Now, this is my new home because some of you are aware I moved here 5 years ago and have an extensive building background. We have an ebook online. If any of the counselors or anyone who happens to be watching this right now would like to go to info, I-N-F-O, and I'll leave some cards here, at fragileshelters.com, we will give you the passcode to the ebook, and you will have free access to a complimentary copy, or anyone who's watching this. So you're aware, the profits from our book sales are all given to the Canadian Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund. So that was quickly done. I have a couple of questions here. On your website, I downloaded the application and it says, well, this is to rezone, and I appreciate your help, Paul. To special rural with special provision 32 RS 32. I was unable to find the definition of that. Can that be explained to me?
Did you hear the question, Paul?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and through you. So the RS 32 zone does not yet exist. The proposed bylaw would create the RS 32 zone and then rezone that subject land to that new zone. The reason for the 32 at the end of that is just it's the 32nd special provision of the RS zone, and that's to address that minimum lot area that I had mentioned earlier.
Okay. In the certification for this, I noticed when I did all my notes on this, that there's various standards 1 through 25. Will this change permit us all of those classifications 1 through 25 in that zoning? Because classification 25 encompasses a business that allows for weddings and that type of thing. And we know where that is. It's just down the road from where we live. So is the change going to encompass that, or will we be allowed to promote that. Do you understand my point?
I think so. Are you?
The CS 25, when you do all of your applications,
Are you
under
asking
zoning
if the
regulations,
property
there's-
will allow you to conduct what they're doing down the highway? Is that your question?
under the RS zoning, there's sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes through quite a couple, and it limits certain things and permits certain things. Now, one of them was a contractor shop, which obviously we're not interested in. But the section 25 allowed for banquets, weddings, that type of thing. Is the change here going to encompass that?
Paul, I'm gonna refer to you on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the RS 32 zone includes all of the regular uses of the standard RS zone. Those other zones are all site-specific provisions for other properties. So a wedding venue wouldn't be permitted as a use on your property.
Okay. All right, that's my only question there, because we have had a couple of people interested in that kind of thing. And my last question, on page 261 of your minutes, the meeting, under lot area, I noticed the provision here, and it's put in a special provision will be added to permit a lot area of 9,500. Is there any conditions allowing us to, and as Mayor Hens knows, we've attempted, and this council has actually supported us trying to sever a lot, and I'm aware of, so is there any provisions there?
Paul, I'm gonna refer to you. I
Thank
could
you.
answer. I'm gonna let you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So under the current policies, I don't believe you're in a settlement area there, so the severances wouldn't be permitted. But if you want to discuss that in more detail, by all means, I'd encourage you to reach out to the county's office and we can schedule a formal meeting and sit down and discuss that further.
I've been down that road and I won't tell you what the answer was. And
That's the
the
problem.
products that we're trying to sell, I think, will let sleeping dogs lie. Council, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, I hope you enjoy the book.
Thanks, Cam. Do council members or any member of the public have any further questions? Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Paul, thanks for the report. I wanted to just make the comment that we had a very similar situation here just down the road from the office where we had a section of which were currently houses zoned commercial. And what we did there is we rezoned them back to residential, but we allowed the commercial use as a secondary use. Is that something we could do here? Because this is a fairly big rural residential property that could be used for something like that. And I'm not sure. That's worked fairly well here. We saw a couple who now that operate houses, they live there, but they also run restaurants and stuff. So I just wondered if that's something we could look at here.
So home occupations certainly are a permitted use in residential zones. They're just limited in the amount of area that they can take up on the property and outdoor storage, as well as the number of employees. But if it's a family operation running a home business, they're absolutely allowed to continue to do that in that zone.
But what we did here is we allowed that full commercial use on the property as well. So they wouldn't, if someone came along and bought it and wanted to open up a commercial, they wouldn't have to rezone. But yet it gave them the cheaper taxes and the easier borrowing until such time as that happened. Is that something we could do here to leave that more flexible?
In that case, I think we'd be probably looking at a completely different parent zone rather than the special rural residential. And I don't know what MPAC would do in that case if having that level of a commercial permitted use would in fact accomplish the end goal of getting that tax rate down.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. If there are no further questions, please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of a bylaw and the proposed amendment should leave their name, address, and postal code with the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If you are not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. The last day to appeal is July 16, 2025. And Tara, we have a resolution.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZBA 03/25 28143 Talbot Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, Yvonne Brooks, dated June 25th, 2025 for information, and that council approves zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 03/25 for property located at 28143 Talbot Line from Highway Commercial C1 Zone to Special Rural Residential Special Provision 32 RS 32 Zone. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Paul and Cam and Yvonne. This was brought to your attention, Paul, not that long ago. So I just want to comment on the timeliness since you received this file. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This public meeting is now concluded.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drulard, that the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 03/25 filed by Yvonne Brooks for property located at 28143 Talbot Line closes at 6:06 PM. All in favor? And that's carried. You want me to go through the bylaws?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we done with the public meeting or do we? Is there, yeah, okay. Yep, let's keep going.
All right, moved by Drulard, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2025-36 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-50 for land known as 32058 Aaron Line be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2025-37 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2022-50 for land municipally known as 28143 Talbot Line be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2025-38 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and there's just a typo on this agenda. We will meet at 4 PM in July and August.
Thanks.
Okay. Just a reminder. And the one we're waiting for.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drulard, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 6:08 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, there's a car show to attend, folks.